Hey, today I am so excited to welcome Brittany Lentz to the show. Brittany is a registered dietitian providing virtual weight inclusive nutrition counseling to women and families across Alberta and British Columbia, supporting those navigating restrictive eating disorders and long-standing struggles with food. In her practice, she helps clients move beyond rigid rules and overwhelm, rebuilding trust with food, strengthening body image, and creating a path toward a more grounded, nourished, and fully lived life. In today's conversation, Brittany and I are talking about all the ways her new website is supporting her practice, what she's learning along the way. Plus, I give her some live coaching on a new offer that she's working on. So if you're in that boat, you're thinking about some new offers, there is some great practical advice in here as well that you're definitely going to want to check out. So let's get into the episode. Hi, Brittany. Welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here.
Hey, Whitney, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Oh man, we were chatting before we hit record and it was like, okay, let's get all of this going and recording. So you
Yeah.
just recently launched your feels like recently, but it's been a couple of months. Launched your website with us. But before we get into all of that, just to kick us off, why don't you give us a really quick version of your story? How did you land in the eating disorder recovery space and what made providing virtual care for women and families feel like the right fit for your practice?
To be honest, when I first graduated as a dietitian, I was terrified of working with eating disorders. As many dietitians know, we don't get a lot of training in that area. And so it just so happened that that was my first placement as a casual dietitian, was in
Oh.
residential eating disorders in Western Canada. And I was really terrified at the beginning, but in the work that I was able to do in that role, I just became so inspired by the grit and the resilience and the tenacity of all of the patients and clients that I got to work with. And it totally shifted my career trajectory. For that moment moving forward, I started to seek out roles and jobs that would help me to build my experience in that area, and then eventually made the leap into private practice, which was very exciting. And
Mhm.
for me, the idea of virtual practice aligns very much with personal goals for wanting to travel or be able to be more flexible with setting up my time and not being
Yeah.
chained to an office.
Mm.
So that's been a fun journey to explore as well. But I
Yeah.
find it really helps for families too, because families that are going through treatment or they're looking to build their treatment team, they have a lot going on, and being able to fit virtual sessions into their day or their weeks can sometimes be a lot more accessible than
Mhm.
having to drive into a clinic, for example.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great that it works for you and it works
Mm-hmm.
for your patients as well. And I
Mm-hmm.
love that that early experience is what changed what your career ended up being. I think that's such a cool thing when it comes to dietetics. On the one hand, we get just a taste of everything, which can be really great because then, oh, there's so many different paths you can go down as a
Mm-hmm.
dietitian. But then on the other hand, like you said, but we don't go deep necessarily into some of these areas.
Yeah.
Business skills is another one that we do
Oh
not
my
really
gosh.
get learned.
Yes, absolutely. You're trained to be a clinician. You're not trained to be a business owner. It's a whole different world.
Yes, yes, absolutely. But I'm so glad that you found something that really clicked for you and clicked so early too that you could then continue to add more of those experiences on. And good for you being terrified and still persevering and learning and growing your confidence to now have a private practice. If you think to where you were in your internship or your undergrad and then being told like, "Oh, now you're running a private practice in this." Like
Mhm.
I'm sure it's mind blowing.
Yeah, it's really funny because I come from a family of entrepreneurs. So I've watched my parents grow their own business. And I actually had looked back on my application to the dietetics program. And I had written even in my application, one day I want to own my own practice. And that
Oh,
felt so scary to write. And I didn't necessarily know at that point the niche that I would be
yeah.
working within. But it has been quite the journey. I dabbled with a very small private practice when I was living in Vancouver, BC. I would
Okay.
just see a couple of clients on the side. I have since moved to Calgary, Alberta. And for a while, I was part of a group private practice, and that was a wonderful learning opportunity. I think for me, it demonstrated or was able to show me the things that I loved about private practice. But I also found that there started to be some friction of, oh, I want to do this a different way, or I want to have more
Mm,
autonomy in my branding or the types of
yeah.
clients that I'm seeing. And so that was ultimately the catalyst to taking a bit of a pause. I haven't always been fully in private practice. It's been touch and go since the beginning. But after that pause, saying, hey, okay, no, I want to come back to this. I want to start to build something that lasts and has real impact for the families that I work with.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. That's great. So you recently went through the process of launching your website with us. And often we talk about really the stuff that goes into creating the website and like the before of the colors and the copy and the pages and all that stuff. And then it's okay, it's launched and we're good. But what's the after been like for you now that your site is live? What's that been like? What's surprised you about all of this now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that I found so helpful when I was in the Wellness Pro website system, like the course, was there was so much encouragement, Whitney, from you and your team of, hey, focus on what's needed now and then make your list of what you need to come back to.
Yeah.
Because at the time when I was building my website, I was also still working a full-time clinic job and growing my private practice on the side. And I've since then jumped into private practice fully. But since launching my website, it's been coming back to that task list of, hey, okay, I have this blog, but I want to keep putting content out. And now I want to really ensure that I'm optimizing for SEO so that people can find me.
Right.
And building out some of those like pieces that go beyond, yeah, I have the initial templates done. I have my photos. I have my colors. It's like refining the content. It's coming back to the copy and really making sure that it's speaking to my ideal client. And as someone who's still quite new in business, I'm often coming back and refining my services or asking, is this really what's working or do I need to shift it? And for me, having the knowledge of how to go in and update those things on my website in a way that's very supported and very easy has been such a game changer.
Oh, good. Yeah. Yeah. That's something that happens is we want our website up and all of that, but then we don't have all the answers necessarily. And so was the process also helpful in helping you even get that structure for what your practice was going to look like on day one? And has it evolved since then?
Absolutely. I think for me, the process of putting together my services page was a really powerful reflective exercise because in that, I'm looking behind me, I've got a big whiteboard on my wall where I've mind mapped out, here are the services that I think I want to offer. And right now, the majority of my practice is one-on-one nutrition counseling for individuals and families. But I've also, in that process, thought about, okay, I want to start to build out potentially a group program, or what would it look like to have a podcast page and grow that for marketing, and starting to really refine what are my offerings, both the things that I do now and I really want to focus on, but also the things that I want to grow over time. And it felt so much more strategic than me tinkering around, Googling how to do things on my website and just trying to make the images be aligned.
Yeah. Yeah. That's at the end of the day, your website is just a reflection of the strategy and what your business actually is. But if you don't have that structure figured out, then your website, it's really just going to be like a jumbled mess. If the ideas are jumbled in your head, it's the same kind of thing. Yeah. And trying to do good for you. I think your website came out so beautifully. You did such an amazing job with it, from just the copy that you have on it. The services are so clear and distinct, which I think is really important. You have great brand photography. The branding itself came out really nicely, but then you also definitely showed restraint and you didn't try to put everything on there. Even I was clicking on it, and people should definitely visit it. It's the links in the show notes. You did an amazing job. Your resources page is so thought out and full. And I don't know, did you launch your website with the resources page fully built out, or was that something that came after too?
That's a good question. I think it came shortly after. Now the timeline's so foggy. I think at launch I had my homepage, my about page, and my services really nailed down. In my mind, I was like, these are the things I need to be really confident about.
Yep.
And then I think within a couple weeks, I had refined out my resources page, and I believe it was like 3 blog posts from my previous site that were quite old. And so now my goal as I continue to work on my business is aiming to release a new blog at least once a month. So I'm having a lot of fun writing and thinking about keywords and those things to add a little bit every single month.
Yeah, that's a great goal. Yeah. And so you don't need to launch on day one with all of these different things. You definitely heard me preach that quite a bit in the program. It's just, okay, what's the minimum viable product to get the website launched so that we can be moving forward and start gaining traction and sharing our link with people and having people coming and learning about us and booking calls. And then we're adding those pieces on, because it doesn't have to be this all or nothing. And for me, the longer that your site sits unpublished, it's just longer that you're not really moving forward. And I know for so many of us, we're perfectionists and we want to do all the things. I know for me personally in my business, when I learn about something that I'm not doing, that gap between where I am now and where I think I should be is so painful.
Yes. It totally is. And sometimes you get that imposter syndrome of, if I can't release it perfectly, then I'm too scared to do it at all. And I think that's a really big mindset barrier that as business owners and as entrepreneurs, we are constantly trying to push through of you have to put it out to the world. You can always refine it. Yeah. But if it's hidden and nobody sees it, you're not helping anybody.
No, that's the other true part too, is that we are launching our businesses and websites so that we can help people. And if you're not out there, your clients that would have been a perfect fit for you are not finding you. Yeah, very, very true. So what role is your site playing in your business now, and how's it supporting the work you're doing?
Yeah, I think one of the really cool return on investments that I'm already starting to see, admittedly, still being quite new in private practice, I'm really working on the marketing, but it's starting small. Yeah. And so a lot of my referrals thus far in my business have been direct referrals from psychologists and therapists that I work with in the city and in BC as well. And in the last, I would say, month and a half, so I launched my website probably about 4 months ago now. So I think it took a little bit of time to get some traction, but I've definitely seen in the last month and a half more frequent discovery calls in that are being booked directly through my website, which is such a fabulous integration. So easy for my clients or potential clients to be like, yeah, I'm going to book right away. And I love when I have a little form that clients fill out, how did you hear about me? And a lot of them are like, oh, I found your website and I loved the content, or I feel like your services really spoke to what I'm looking for. And I'm like, oh man, okay, the work is worth it because you're seeing these people who are landing on your site and they're reading about your services and they're reading about who you are and how you can help. And they're going, yeah, I want to meet this person. I want to talk to them. And that's really exciting for me.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think so many of these things can feel like theory and can feel like, okay, yeah, that sounds nice, but is that really going to happen? But that is literally how it happens, is that's what happens. People are coming to your site and they are connecting with you. And especially with eating disorders, there's so much of that trust and vulnerability there. So it's even more important for your site to really be giving that personal impression and connection for them. And so it's much more likely that if they're feeling like, okay, I can trust Britney and how she's going to treat me and talk to me and support me, that booking that call is just so much easier for them to do as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when it comes to the clinical space in eating disorders, many dietitians have the clinical skills to treat eating disorders. The part that can feel really sticky and hard is it's inherently very relational work as well. Yeah. And especially working with families, I work with a lot of adolescents. And I've heard from parents before where we'll be on a discovery call and they'll say, hey, I read through your about page and I've got a sense of who you are and how you practice. And I think my teen would really relate to you. I think they would really get along. And sometimes that's a really important step for getting people in the door, because talking about eating disorder recovery or even just talking about treatment in general is sticky and it's not always the fun conversations. And so having a bit of that relational foundation is so important.
Yeah. And you mentioned about referrals, and that's so wonderful that you're getting referrals. And I think one thing to keep in mind for us is that, yes, the referrals can come from a therapist or a doctor or something like that. But those people that are getting your name, a lot of them are still going to your website and looking at what your offerings are before they're booking that discovery call. So it's not enough that you gave your name and email to a therapist, said, I can help your patients. that website is still supporting it. I think that's sometimes the confusing part for people, especially when they say they have a referral based practice and they're getting a lot of referrals. Yeah, but what's supporting that? And a lot of times it's the website. So
100%. And I know at least here in Canada, like ethically for a lot of practitioners, so if you're a physio or a dietitian or any sort of allied health professional, within our code of conduct and our ethics, like when we're making referrals, usually we are offering a couple different names for people. So we're saying, hey, here's 3 dietitians that you could check out. I think they could help you. And so I think that's where your website and your branding does become that important factor, because potential clients are looking at maybe 2 or 3 different dietitian practices. And from your website, they're trying to say, okay, who's the person that I think I'm going to work with the best? Whose services are what I'm looking for? And like, how can I book in and have a smooth onboarding process? And that's all coming from your website.
Yeah, that's such a great point. It's not just your name. There's a few other names in there. So there's still a competitive aspect that you need to be aware of. It's not just like a slam dunk. Oh yeah, they'll say yes right away. They're picking who the right one is. Now, you mentioned that you're doing marketing or trying not to get too overwhelmed by it and all of that, which I can completely relate to. So what are you doing alongside the website to bring people in to your world?
Yeah, great question. It's funny, and maybe other dietitian entrepreneurs will relate to this, but I remember after quitting my full-time job and launching and saying I'm going to do full-time private practice, I had set up this structure for myself. And I said, okay, Tuesday to Friday are going to be my client days, and Monday is going to be my admin work on the business day. And I still remember that first week sitting at my desk Monday morning, and I just was paralyzed. I had so many projects and ideas and things that I wanted to start on, and I had no clue where to start or what to do. And so something that has really been helpful for me is I'm such a list person. Like, I think very linearly. I almost had to like bubble out, okay, here are the different aspects of marketing that eventually I want to focus on. Here are the smaller tasks within all of those things. And then really getting honest with myself about what is my capacity right now to start to chip away at these things. And so one area that I have been intentionally focusing on showing up regularly is my email list. So as part of building my website, I made my first lead magnet, and that's been really cool to see subscribers trickling in on my email list. And I'm like, I have all these people, I need to talk to them. I need to be present in their inbox. And so right now I'm working on getting an email newsletter sent out every 2 weeks and trying to be really consistent with that. And then from there, hopefully building into some social media stuff, but we're building to it. We're not really in an execution phase quite yet.
Yeah. And you also have that plan, like you have the makings of a great repurposing structure, because if you're planning to do a blog once a month, that can be one of your emails. And then the other email in the month can just be either a theme taken from that same blog post or something else. And then that blog can be repurposed into social media posts that go out. And my feeling on social media is if you enjoy it, do it. But if you think referrals can be so powerful, especially in your space, there are so many other service providers that are potentially interacting with your clients before they're coming to you. They might be seeing their pediatrician first, or going to a therapist or whatnot, or school counselors and all of that. So it can be potentially, yes, you have to do the relationship building, and that can sometimes be a little uncomfortable or just time consuming. And man, I had to reach out to these people like 3 times before they returned my email. But then you think about, oh, okay, I sent all these posts out on social media and I got 5 likes. That it's, which rejection would I prefer?
Totally. And that's a really good point about how you can be so strategic with your content. And I think that's something I'm really in the process of learning right now of, okay, you take a blog post, and what are all the different ways that you can repurpose that content so that you're not recreating the wheel every single time you sit down to create something.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you say that piece about referrals, because I guess I had never really thought about this as marketing, but now I'm like, oh, of course it is. Something that I work really hard at doing as a clinician is that when I am collaborating, whether it's with a pediatrician or a therapist or another practitioner in the community, I really value collaboration and communication. And so when we have everything signed as far as disclosures and consent, like really providing thorough updates and like treatment plans to the clinicians that I'm working with.
Mm-hmm.
And something that I have noticed, and I think this would apply to dietitians in a variety of spaces, like the more collaborative you are, other clinicians want to work with you. Because I think all of us want to be part of a team and we really want to see our client moving forward. And so if they know, hey, this person is really clear, they're easy to collaborate with, I can get a hold of them, I think that actually helps you from a referral perspective too.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like you said, the whole goal is for the patient or the client to succeed and get where they're wanting to go. And so when you are supporting that other practitioner in achieving that goal, that they also want to have good outcomes for their client, who also happens to be yours, then it is, you actually are giving value to them besides just going and saying, hey, do you have any new people for me? You're helping them do a better job in their practice, which makes them want to give more people to you, send more people to you.
100%. And then you're building those really strong working relationships too.
Yeah. So yeah, that's totally a marketing channel. Absolutely, is that referral base. And I think it's one of those things that is forgotten as a marketing channel. And it can, like, the sky's the limit, because think about how many providers are in your geographic area that you could reach out to all of them, all, I was before we hit record, I was mentioning to go and listen to the podcast I recorded with Alex Raymond a couple weeks ago about referrals. And she, I think when she was starting, she was reaching out to maybe 20 providers a month. And so it feels like a lot, but if you have a standard process that you're doing, it can feel a little less overwhelming to just be doing the same thing. And then you're also, hey, if 10 people don't respond to your email, you're not as upset about it because you got 10 other people that, that did, as opposed to, I'm going to just put all my focus on crafting 3 really great emails. And it's tough. That's great that you're doing that. And you're definitely, Alex talked about that too. And I've heard that the collaboration is a big part of making those referral relationships continue to feel successful and be successful and ongoing. But that's great that you're wanting to do the email newsletter and stay in touch with your list. I'm curious, do you feel you've had anyone who joined your list who has booked a discovery call from what you can tell yet, or like from the lead magnet, or is it still too early to see that?
Good question. It's probably a little too early to see that. Like what I'm finding right now are people are joining. I have my lead magnet linked on my Instagram account as well.
Okay.
So either through website or Instagram, they'll get onboarded through that. I also do some consulting through my private practice with a local nonprofit here. So I run family support groups for eating disorder recovery. And I've found through that, often families will also find my email list and they get into that content. But I think the analytics is something that is so fascinating, of learning where your audience is coming from. And that's definitely something that I want to spend more time focusing on, because then you know where to spend your energy.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think as you start emailing your list and being consistent and sharing different resources and making sure they're aware of the services you have, and just make sure you've got your little book a call link or services page link in the footer of every email so that they can always get there. I think sometimes we forget to ask for the sale. We definitely want to be adding value and all of that, but part of adding value and helping people is actually letting them know how we can support them, because we get so many emails. And so you may not, there's people that I get emails in my inbox and I'm still on their email list and I like their emails, but I forget who they are. I forget what they do and what they offer. So if they're not reminding me every so often, even just at the bottom of the email, what they do, I'm going to just be like, oh, that was a nice email, and go about my day. So I think that's just little tip as you keep going doing
For
those.
sure. And I think when you're enthralled in working on your business, like you are talking about your business and your services all day long, and you forget that someone who's on the other side of your email list maybe only hears from you once every 2 weeks, or maybe they've just visited your website once. You're like, they need to hear it too. It's not that redundant. You can share that multiple times.
Yep. Yeah. And I think not being apologetic about, because you're thinking like, man, I just emailed them 2 weeks ago, or I just talked about this. It's like, they don't remember. Just say what you're going to say. Don't worry about it. If they don't want to be there, they'll unsubscribe, and that's fine. But that's the whole process, is people figuring out, are you for them or not? Are they for you? And that's why continuing to have new people coming in, and that's great that you're going to be blogging and optimizing for SEO. And so that way too, when people are finding your site on Google and coming to your blog, they'll also see your lead magnet, because it's in like the sidebar of your blog. And if you do other lead magnets in the future, you can just call them out and link them in your blog. So it's this whole virtuous cycle.
It totally is. And that's where I find it's so fun in running your business, of like just the creativity and the way that you can come up with an idea and put it into action right away and sort of like flesh these things out. It is a lot of fun. It's like a lot of autonomy, and sometimes that can feel scary because there's so many options, but ultimately it's so joyful. I show up and I come into my office and I'm like, I am so grateful to get to do the work that I do, and this is so fun.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad you're enjoying it. I completely agree. I love that I don't have to ask anyone for permission to do anything. I still remember my corporate job and how it was like, man, I had to create a project brief. It had to be signed off by 3 people 2 months in the future. No, we get to do whatever we want. And that's awesome. Speaking of doing new things, let's talk about, you had, when we were planning this, you mentioned you were open to some coaching. And so we're going to kind of drop into a little bit of a coaching brainstorming session, because you are thinking about launching a new service, or you're just trying to work out some new things that you want to be offering to people. So why don't you talk me through a little bit more of what you're thinking, and maybe what's on your mind, what your questions are?
Yeah, absolutely. So something that has been rattling around in my mind as I think about growing my business is, how can I continue to support the families that I work with? So mostly parents that would be supporting their children or teens through recovery between sessions. So a lot of times you have a one-on-one nutrition counseling appointment. It's an hour a week, maybe an hour every other week. And we're trying to give as much nutrition counseling, and we're talking about meal planning and all of these different aspects. And then we send families on their way and we go, you can do this. And I find in my business too, a lot of families are either on the wait list, sometimes for higher levels of care, or the wait list for our public program here in Alberta, and they're wanting more support. And so thinking about an option that would offer perhaps a little bit of like video coaching. So maybe some video modules, as well as what I hear from families a lot is, you're telling me that I need to refeed my child, but how do I do that? What are the food options? What are the really tangible nutrition pieces? Where sometimes I find that's really missed. And that's where families are coming to me for support. And so if that's an adjunct to my one-on-one nutrition services, the idea that is brewing, and it's very much in its infancy stages, is what if there was some sort of like monthly program, or like a group support type of setup that I could create that would have some nutrition information and recipe ideas for families that would be in a refeeding sort of phase for their child, as well as maybe like a drop-in like Q&A session, or like a place where families can come together and know, hey, I'm not alone. Other families are working through this too, and have the support of a dietitian while they're waiting for treatment, or they're building their own treatment team in the community. Just more like day-to-day support.
Yeah. And more of that tactical educational support that needs to go along with more of the counseling and therapeutic support that you're doing on the one-to-one. But you probably would be finding yourself repeating yourself a lot of times, if on every call with your patients you had to be going through here are the basics of refeeding, or these are the basics of what you would want to be doing. So you're trying to also make sure that the time you have one-on-one is really like high value, and digging into like deeper things that probably warrant a conversation versus things where it's like they can watch a module and figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. There's kind of these foundational knowledge nuggets, I'll call them,
Yeah.
where for I would say most families across the board, like an understanding of the foundations is key. And then really what we're doing in our nutrition one-on-one sessions is, okay, how do we take that and really apply it to your individual family or your grocery shopping or meal planning type of rhythms? And so if families are coming in having already maybe done some of that foundational work, I think it would allow us to go so much deeper, so much quicker in our one-to-one sessions.
So I'm thinking like, what if you built that as this foundational course or module or platform or whatever, and then people could, it wasn't necessarily like that was what you were selling on its own or upfront or anything like that, but it underpinned, and people could choose whether they wanted to work with you one-on-one or they could actually go into a group setting where either way that foundational program is still there and supporting the work, but they can choose to either, or maybe I guess you could have some hybrid thing. We don't want to have too many options for people to choose from or things that are too similar, and then it's really hard. So I guess you'd have to let me know, would your one-to-one people want that in between support, or could it be that you create a group program where there's group calls and all of that? So I'm just, yeah. But I feel like having that like educational piece underneath everything probably would be a value add regardless. And then you can put the type of service and how like additional services are being delivered on top of that in different ways, maybe.
That. Yeah, that's where I'm toying with it, of this idea of, does it become this point of entry where families access like a video course, and maybe there's some group coaching, because I do like the idea of having the live component. I think in today's world where you can look up anything on AI, it's nice to have a human that's communicating with you and really supporting you. But then from there to go, oh, okay, we do want more support and we're going to look at one-on-one services, or this is just the bridge that we needed until we get into public treatment. Yeah, that kind of seems like a good way to start, and then to gather feedback from the families that would be enrolling in that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think beta testing is always a great idea. So if you have a few people, or either, because this can also be helpful if you've had people that you've had discovery calls with and they haven't moved forward. And depending on what their reasons were, but if you feel that any of them would be a good fit for this program instead, then that's really a great way to just first test the idea. So one thing that I've been doing in my business, I am doing a lot of experimentation right now and looking at different offerings and different services as well, and trying to find the lowest possible way, easiest possible way to test that idea before having to build out an entire offer and spend all of that time of creating the beautiful, perfect copy and landing page and all the descriptions and creating the content. God forbid, don't create all the content before you know if anyone's going to buy it. But that can be hard too. Going back to the perfectionism and feeling like we need to have the whole thing figured out. There's ways around that. So anyway, what I would suggest doing is, once you have an idea of, okay, maybe it could be like this. It's this group program. There's this and this and this. This is like just a paragraph. It's not like a long bulleted list or anything. And the general price point, the general length of time, and just email a couple of these people who you think could be a good fit and just see, is this something, just ask them, is this something that you would be interested in? And see what they say and engage in conversation. And that can help you determine, okay. And if they come back and say, yeah, that sounds great, then you can ask, that's awesome. Okay. What is making this feel like an absolute no-brainer for you? What did you love most about that idea? Because then that can help you with the copy that you're going to use to actually sell it to more people. And what was the thing that stuck out to them? And we fill in the gaps. We make the assumptions about when we see a service or something. What's written on the page is not what we are thinking in our head. We are coming up with something about, oh, it's going to help me do this, or I really love this aspect of it. And so especially when you're trying out a new service or offer, it's really great to just find out, okay, what was that perception that someone who was wanting to say yes was thinking was the most interesting to them, so that you can use that in the marketing of it. And similarly, if people respond back and say no, they'll probably give you some reason about like why not. And if they aren't saying that, then you could always follow up and be like, you have any feedback, or make it a little bit more open-ended. We don't want to be like yes or no type of questions, but I think that's a great way to research it if you are feeling like, okay, this is the kind of thing, because it does make sense to have it be like an entry point for families. And I like that idea of that they could always upgrade to also do one-on-one work with you as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And there's so much beautiful information that we can glean from the clients that we work with, right? I think it's, again, just breaking down those barriers of, oh, as the clinician, I have to have all the answers and I have to know what people need. And it's really client-centered care to say, hey, like, how can I support you more? What is going to help you with the pain points that you're struggling with? And like, how can I create something that really bridges that gap? I have yet to have a client come to me who's, that was weird when you asked me how you could help me more. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Because when we come from a place of just trying to be of service, it is authentic, and that's how it comes across. If you're like, what are some other things I could sell to you? Then of course that's not really the way to go about it. And most of us are not really thinking in that way. We really do want to try and solve the problems of our clients. And if we don't have that thing yet to help them solve it, you like really want to figure out what we can give to them to solve it. But when it comes to the process of launching a new service or something, it's also really helpful to then find out, okay, who's willing to pay for this idea that I have? And that's the other piece too, is once you get enough validation of people saying, okay, at that price point, that sounds pretty good, then you could start pre-selling it and give yourself a window of when it's going to kick off, and have a goal of 5 people in it, something small and manageable. And then you get that feedback from them. You could easily drop the content every week rather than saying, oh, I need to have, if you were thinking of having 5 sections or modules or something and thinking it all has to be built on day one. If the container is going to be 3 months anyway, then it's totally fine if this beta offer is every week or every 2 weeks, there's new content. It's probably more refreshing to them anyway, too. They're busy.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. And then gives you the opportunity, like in the moment, to be refining as you go, right? Like you have module 1, you get questions, you get feedback from that. You go, oh, I really want to include XYZ in module 2 based on what people are asking for.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think especially during the pandemic, courses were everywhere. Everyone was creating courses and launching them. And now with AI, it hasn't been, I just remember maybe it was like 6 months or a year ago where it was like, I know Kajabi has an AI feature, and it's, I'll help you create a course for, just say what the thing is, and then I'll create the whole outline. And it's, so I think there's course fatigue out there, and everyone's so busy too. And so I think it's even more important now when we are putting together asynchronous, self-directed content, that we are giving people only what they need truly, and not trying to overfill it with every possible thing, or finding other ways to help them get that answer that doesn't require them to watch a 20-minute video, whether it's a handout or coming up with a little GPT or AI tool that they can ask a question and it will help them find it, or just having your content organized in a way that it can be really searchable so that people can find what they're looking for and don't have to sort through a lot. And I'm speaking from the fact that you were in my program. There were a lot of modules in there. There was a lot of content. But even when I was launching that program 4 years ago, I had so many ideas of what I wanted to put in there. And then I realized I really just need to do what I think is the bare minimum for what people need. And then I launched it live that first time. and found out what were the questions, what were the things I needed to add more content for. Because otherwise, if you are just guessing and putting way too much in there right up front, you're never going to know which content was actually what people needed versus not, because you just threw the kitchen sink at them and maybe half of that wasn't actually necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't want to invest so much time creating all this content that's not actually going to be supportive or helpful, right? That's nobody's time is being used effectively in that way.
Yeah, exactly. Does that help? Are there other things that you're thinking about with all of this that you want to chat through?
Yeah, I think that's helpful. Even just to conceptualize, okay, where do we start? Let's think about a little bit of content here. Let's reach out to, I can already call to mind a few families that I'm working with of, hey, would you make use of a service like this? Would that be helpful for you? And just starting to get those conversations going is a clear roadmap. Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Yeah. Don't have to have all the answers and everything fleshed out to start those conversations, just a few things. And then, you'll figure it out as you go. So that's great. Cool. And then we also had talked about, we have a few more minutes. And so I want to circle back on the referral piece a little bit. Is there anything there that you want to chat through, or ideas to make that working better for you, or anything else that you're thinking like, yeah, I wish this would go a little bit better, that I'd love Whitney's input on?
Yeah, I think when I consider referral sources, the way that people are finding my business right now, something that I know that you have been creating a lot of content around and supporting clinicians with is the idea of like ads, right? What does that look like to invest a little bit of money, or like to do some targeted ads or marketing? And I guess I'm really curious to hear maybe like your hot take on like what would be the role of that for someone who's very much in like the starting sort of stages of their private practice.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So what we have really focused on in the content that we put out recently and the ad offer that we recently shared with people was a funnel, creating a lead generation funnel. So having ads that are directing to your lead magnet. So it could be the same lead magnet that you've already created. It could be a different one. And those types of ads are going to be more effective they're going to be more cost effective, because it's really just gauging, it's getting people's interest. It's just leads. It's not sales. Versus if you were running ads directly to book a call, those are going to be more expensive, because Meta knows that that is a sales focused ad and they're going to charge more for that. It also requires someone to be really hot and ready to book a call. And so it's going to take a bit more time to find those people that are that ready. And so that costs more. And then also those people don't know you. And so they're hot in the sense that they just booked a call with you, but they're cold in the sense that they really don't know much about you. They may not have looked at your services page a whole lot and gotten to know how you operate and all of that. And so what we really like to do and recommend to people is to use the ads to build your email list, and then use your email list along with that lead magnet to just warm people up to you and just build that relationship and get them to be hearing about you on a regular basis, hearing how you work with families, giving some case studies or testimonials. Those can be anonymous. Your approach to eating disorder treatment and recovery, talking about the nuances of treating eating disorders with adolescents, like all of those things, putting those in emails that those parents, so you could have one funnel if you wanted for parents of teens with eating disorders or for families. And then you could have another funnel at some point that is for adults that are, or women that are also dealing with eating disorders. And so what you want to do is, because it's very important to have that lead magnet really connected to what is the offer that you want those people to take advantage of. Because ideally your lead magnet is going to be prepping them in some way for that offering and giving them a little mini win, some kind of mindset shift that's going to make them feel like, okay, this is the next step. I now feel more ready to actually get treatment or seek out treatment and all of that. And so because you are serving two different audiences, I think it really makes sense to have those two funnels. But again, start with whatever one feels like. Maybe you have a great referral network for families and you're like, that's rocking and rolling, but I would really love my women clients to bump up a little bit. So maybe I'll do an ad funnel to try and get more women to be opting into my email list. And then you're going to be talking about your services for women and all of that. And then those emails that you're sending out to your list, you could keep it segmented the whole time, but that I don't even segment my list because I don't have enough time to write that many pieces of content for different kinds of people. But you could find a way to either alternate that content, or maybe each piece of content feels like, okay, there's a section that's for these people and a section for these people, and whatever the case is. But yeah, that's how I would be looking at ads, specifically Facebook and Instagram ads. Google ads, we haven't done a whole lot in, but I've heard potentially they could be a little bit more costly because, again, they also are more like looking for the sale. They are not necessarily about just generating leads that you are then going to warm up, versus you're basically paying Google to find people that are ready to book with you. And those are just more costly.
Okay. Yeah, that's super helpful, even just to conceptualize, like, where might you start or what would you do? And that idea of, like, I want to be growing my leads. I want to be growing my community that I'm talking to, so that as new services or new offers are ready and I'm wanting to roll these out or beta test them, I have a larger audience to communicate with about that.
Yep, exactly. Like, we want to build that pool of people earlier if we can, because then it does make it easier when we do have new things to launch. We're not like, who am I going to ask if they want this or launch it to? You already have people that just haven't moved forward yet. So yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think for list building, so that's basically, to me, ads for list building is a really good, solid approach, especially for someone who's starting out and new to ads, because of course there's so many different ads funnels and things that you can do. I'm in a program where people are running ads to webinars and to paid workshops and all of that. But those all require they're things that you're going to learn and build into your marketing arsenal as time goes on. But I think the other thing I wanted to say is that list building can also come from so many different places too. So ads is great. And like we've talked about, the $5 a day ads. So spending $150 a month, when you think about how much time you'd spend creating social media posts for the month and you value your time, it's probably more than $150. So that actually, you don't need to be really advanced in business to even just have a simple lead generating ad running, and you just want to be monitoring it to see, okay, are my lead costs good? How are those people that are the leads coming onto to my email list? Are most of them staying? Are they engaging with my emails? So you do want to monitor it just like any other marketing channel or strategy that you're going to do. But you could also be doing things where, if there are collaborators that you could work with, where you could do like a freebie swap, and you like an email list swap basically. And if they have a lead magnet or program that you could promote to your list, then they could also promote your lead magnet to their list and share your resources and all of that. So I think another good one is just looking for people who have audiences similar to yours. You're already doing some work in the community, but also doing talks and all of that can really be a great way to be list building, because during that talk at the end, yes, you can call to book a call with you, but then you could also give your resource and people can scan a QR code to sign up, or you could have everyone write their name on a thing, however you want to collect the emails. But I think there are so many different ways to be building our email lists. And then then that's just that one marketing channel that you're just making sure you're putting content out into. So
yeah, absolutely. I think it's good for us to remember as we launch our businesses and grow them, right? You get to have that beginner mindset of, I'm still learning. I'm trying all these things. I'm pivoting. I'm testing new things out and getting to to tap in and explore these different things it's fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I'm glad that you have that perspective, because I think also it can feel very overwhelming, and maybe like I also feel that way. But yeah, I think advice I would have given to my younger self was like, you really don't need to do all of these things all at once. And you don't need to put so much pressure on yourself, because there's endless tactics. And really the best thing is to just keep yourself happy and healthy and supported. And so don't burn yourself out trying to just do all of these things all at once. So
yeah, at the end of the day, you run a business, but you have to be well and supported to run a business so that it keeps going.
Yeah. And especially with the work you're doing, you need to be showing up for your families and for your patients. And if you're just feeling really burnt out from all the other stuff of running your business, then I'm sure that can make that process really tough as well. So
yeah, absolutely. It's like striking that balance.
Yeah. One last question. This has been really great. And I know I said I wanted to keep a certain time, and then I just kept going. What's one thing that you wish someone had told you in your first year of business that would have saved you some stress, time, or second guessing?
Oh, that's such a good question. There's so many things that come to mind, but I think one of the biggest things, or the most prominent thing, is just don't be afraid to start. I think when I was toying with business and then I was in group private practice, there was always this belief of, I don't have the experience yet, or I don't know enough yet. And if I'm being honest, it probably held me back. And who knows, maybe I could have started my business years earlier. I'm still very, very happy that I'm doing it now and so proud of the work that I'm doing. But there was very much that belief of, I don't know enough yet, or I don't have enough experience that I can help people. And I think especially as dietitians, we go to school for so long and we do so much training and we care so deeply about doing a good job and helping the people that we serve, that you have value and you have the skills. And yeah, you might not know anything about business and that's a whole nother learning curve, but allow yourself to learn and don't be afraid to start, right? It's that whole put yourself out there, be a little bit messy, let it not be perfectly polished, and learn along the way. I think that probably would have changed the trajectory or how early I would have gotten started. I've had to do a lot of mindset work around that.
The mindset work of an entrepreneur. It's like, it's a whole nother to-do item that you have to have.
Absolutely.
So thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I think that's really valuable advice and something probably a lot of people need to hear. Thank you, Britney, so much for being on the podcast and for sharing all of this with us. And yeah, thanks for being here.
Oh, thanks so much, Whitney.
Well, Britney, thank you so much for being so open and generous with us today. It was so great to hear what's working for her right now in her practice and what she is working on next. And I think that big takeaway of pace yourself. You don't have to do everything at once. And you can create that to-do list, that idea list of the things that you want to work on, and just take it one step at a time. And we got some really great advice from Britney as well that applies really no matter what stage of business you're in. So thank you, Britney, again for that. So you can find Britney's beautiful new website in the show notes. So go check her out there. And to everyone listening, if this episode resonated with you, remember to please share it with a friend or fellow practitioner who needs to hear it. Give us a rating and review, and I will see you in the next episode.